In the year 2247, Earth had finally found a place among the stars. For almost 60 years, humans lived as part of the galactic Concord. Many alien species joined this large group to share trade, knowledge, and peace. The aliens saw humans as smart, but weak. Humans were good at making new machines, creating art, and learning fast, but their bodies were small and soft compared to others. The tall, strong Khazari Dominion ruled most of the Concord with their many arms and thick armor. They treated humans like helpful servants, not true equals. Most humans accepted this role quietly. They built good relations, sent gifts, and followed the rules. Life felt safe under the shadow of the bigger powers. Children grew up hearing stories of friendly aliens and wonderful distant worlds. No one expected the nightmare that would soon arrive. The Khazari ambassador came to Earth many times. He stood much taller than any human, his skin shining like metal under the lights. His voice was deep and calm, but always carried a hidden edge. One day in Geneva, during a normal council meeting, he delivered his message. He spoke without anger. He simply stated that Earth must give up 3 outer colonies. Those worlds, New Shanghai, Elysium Reach, and Tau Ceti IV, had rich minerals the Khazari needed for their ships and weapons. If humans refused, the Khazari would take action to correct the situation. The human leaders listened carefully. They asked polite questions. They reminded him of old treaties that protected human lands. The ambassador listened too, but his many eyes showed no warmth. After a short pause, he stood up and left the room. The doors closed behind him with a soft click. That sound felt louder than any shout. For the next few days, life on Earth continued as normal. People went to work, children went to school, ships flew between planets. But under the surface, worry grew. They read reports about Khazari fleet movements. Some hoped it was just talk. Others prepared quiet plans, just in case. Then on the 3rd morning after the meeting, the first alarm sounded. Screens across Earth showed impossible images. Huge Khazari warships had appeared above New Shanghai without any warning. No message, no demand for surrender, just attack. Kinetic rods fell from orbit like silver rain. Each one struck with the power of an old nuclear bomb, but cleaner and more precise. Towers of steel and glass turned to fire. Streets became rivers of molten rock. People ran in every direction, but the sky itself seemed to punish them. Mothers pulled children under tables. Fathers tried to shield families with their bodies. It made no difference. In less than an hour, the main cities were gone. Smoke rose so thick it blocked the sun. Survivors crawled from ruins, only to see Khazari dropships descend. Armored soldiers with long plasma lances stepped out. They moved in perfect lines. They did not shout or laugh. They simply killed. Blue fire cut through crowds. Those who hid were found and burned. No prisoners, no mercy. Over 3 million lives ended on New Shanghai alone before the sun set. The same terror struck Elysium Reach next. This colony was famous for its wide green fields and quiet farms. Families lived simple lives here, growing food and raising animals. The Khazari did not use rods this time. They released clouds of neurotoxic gas from low orbit. The gas was silent and fast. It entered lungs and turned breath into fire. People fell in the middle of their daily work. Children dropped toys and collapsed in gardens. Farmers died beside their fields. The gas killed everything. Humans, animals, even insects. When it cleared, the Khazari troops walked through the silence. They checked for any sign of life and ended it. Then they set fires to destroy the bodies. Elysium Reach, once full of laughter and growing things, became a dead place, covered in ash. Tau Ceti IV was the final target. This world had proud crystal towers built by human artists and scientists. People here studied stars, made music, and dreamed big dreams. The Khazari attacked with full ground forces. Soldiers marched through streets, breaking into homes and labs. They killed without pause. Families hid in basements, but sensors found them. Screams echoed for hours. When the last cry faded, Tau Ceti 4 held no living human. 7 million people were dead across the three worlds. Entire generations gone. Names that once filled family books now meant nothing. The Khazari recorded everything. They sent the videos to every corner of the galaxy. Their message was simple and clear. This is what happens when lesser species disobey. The Galactic Concord watched in silence. Some species turned away from the screens. Others nodded in quiet agreement. The Khazari leaders spoke to the council later. They said the action was necessary. They said Earth would now understand its place. No one argued. Many aliens believed the humans were broken forever. The small, soft species had lost too much. They would never rise again. The ambassador even allowed himself a small smile when he returned to his ship. He thought the lesson was complete. But on Earth, the planet went dark for 3 full days. No broadcasts, no angry crowds, no calls for revenge played on every channel. Streets stayed empty. People sat in their homes with blank faces. They looked at photos of lost loved ones. They touched empty chairs at dinner tables. The pain cut deep. Yet something else grew in that pain. It was not wild rage. It was something colder, sharper, more dangerous. Humans had always been quick learners. Now they learned the final truth. Trust can be a fatal mistake. In hidden bunkers under mountains, leaders gathered. They read long lists of the dead. 7 million names. Each name carried memories, first steps, first words, last goodbyes. The room stayed quiet, except for soft reading voices. No tears fell on camera. No fists hit tables. When the last name was spoken, one person stood. In a plain voice, he said it was time. The others nodded. No long speeches followed. No flags waved. Just one decision. On the 4th day, every screen on Earth lit up at the same moment. Faces of the assembly appeared. They looked tired but steady. They spoke in simple words, so no one could misunderstand. They read the new laws slowly. After the slaughter of 7 million, Earth declares one law. No alien shall stand on human soil. No alien shall orbit human worlds. No alien shall breathe human air without our permission. And that permission can be taken back at any time. Any violation means death. That was all. No extra promises, no talk of limits or mercy. The law passed with every vote in favor. Then the screens went dark again. Factories that once made toys and cars changed overnight. Machines started building weapons and ships. Scientists opened locked files full of dangerous ideas. Engineers worked without rest. Soldiers trained until their bodies shook. In Geneva, where the ambassador once spoke, people watched from rooftops as fire came down from space. The Khazari embassy turned to shining glass in seconds. Small escape ships rose, only to be shot down by fast drones. The survivors were placed in metal boxes and sent away with one message painted on the outside: the rest of your staff. The galaxy received those images too. Some aliens laughed nervously. Others felt the first touch of fear. Because Earth did not stop. The factories kept running. The ships kept launching. The training kept going. And the law remained the same. No alien shall stand. Those 4 words spread across human worlds like an oath written in blood. Deep inside every heart, a new understanding took root. Never again would humans be the weak guests in someone else's galaxy. From that moment, the stars would learn what humans did when pushed too far. And the learning would not be gentle. On the 4th day after the silence fell over Earth, The world woke up not with screams or riots, but with calm purpose. Deep beneath the Swiss Alps, in a huge concrete room lit by cold white lights, the leaders of every nation sat around a long table. No flags hung on the walls. No cameras recorded the moment. They had already seen enough pictures of burning cities and dead children. Now they only looked at lists, long, endless lists of names, ages, and last known locations. 7 million gone. The air smelled of coffee and metal. One by one, voices read the numbers aloud. 17% of humans living off Earth. Whole family lines ended. Cities that once had millions now held only echoes and ash. When the last name finished, the room stayed quiet for a long minute. Then the president of the United Terran Assembly stood. She was an older woman with short gray hair and steady eyes. She did not raise her voice. She simply said, "We have one choice left. We make sure this never happens again." Everyone nodded. No one argued. No one cried on camera. They voted right there. One law, one sentence. No alien shall stand on human soil, orbit human worlds, or breathe human air without our express and revocable permission. Violation means immediate death. The words appeared on every screen across the planet at the exact same second. People in streets, in homes, in factories stopped what they were doing and read them. Some closed their eyes. Some touched photos of lost family. But no one cheered. This was not joy. This was math. Cold, final math. The change happened fast. Too fast for most people to follow. Shipyards that built cargo haulers the day before now welded armor plates and gun barrels. Workers pulled double shifts without complaint. Engineers opened secret files marked "Do not open unless ordered." Inside were designs for weapons no one had ever wanted to build. Antimatter drives that could push ships past light speed in short bursts. Relativistic kill vehicles that hit like asteroids, but moved on purpose. Bioplagues tuned to alien DNA so human lungs stayed safe, while others choked. Universities turned into war labs overnight. Professors who once taught poetry now taught how to calculate kill radii. Students learned to aim railguns before they learned history. The old militaries, once rivals, merged into one command. They called it simply the Wardens. Young men and women signed up in lines that stretched for blocks. They trained until their muscles burned. They ran drills in zero gravity. They practiced shooting at moving targets that looked exactly like Xari soldiers. No one talked about revenge. They talked about prevention. The law demanded it. The first real action came fast and quiet. Every Khazari embassy on Earth, big glass buildings in major cities, became targets. No warning, no final message. At dawn on the 5th day, bright lines of fire came down from orbit. Satellites that once watched weather now watched for alien movement. When they saw Khazari diplomats trying to leave, small drones launched. The drones were fast and silent. They hit the escape shuttles before the engines even warmed up. Metal boxes fell from the sky and landed in empty fields far from cities. Inside each box were the few ambassadors who had surrendered. They were alive. Barely. A single message was painted in red on every box. Remainder of diplomatic staff. Return to sender. The boxes were loaded onto old freighters and sent toward the nearest Khazari border station. No escorts, no protection, just a course set and engines fired. The galaxy watched those images spread on open channels. Some aliens laughed at first. They said humans were throwing tantrums. Others felt something colder crawl up their spines. Earth did not stop there. The factories kept running, day and night. New ships rose from dry docks every week. They looked strange, ugly, patched together from whatever parts were ready. But each one carried more guns than any human ship had before. Drones swarmed like angry insects around every human world. They waited in the dark between stars, patient and invisible. Border stations that once welcomed trade now bristled with rail cannons and missile tubes. Automated voices broadcast the new law in every known language, repeating it every hour. Enter human space without permission and die. No exceptions, no second chances. The deadline was born. A growing sphere of space claimed by Earth. Any ship that crossed it, without human code, vanished in flashes of light. Traders from friendly species tried to ask questions. Their ships turned back or disappeared. Inside the bunkers and command centers, people worked without rest. Maps showed the deadline expanding week by week. Engineers tested new weapons in empty space. One test sent a small rock at 10% light speed. It hit a captured Khazari probe and turned it into glowing dust. The scientists watched the flash and wrote notes. No smiles, just more calculations. In schools, children learned new lessons. They studied alien biology, not to understand culture, but to know weak points. They learned which gases hurt which species most. They practiced emergency drills that ended with "assume all aliens are hostile." Parents did not argue. They helped their kids memorize targeting patterns instead. The old songs and stories still existed, but new ones grew beside them. Quiet tales of the 7 million, of cities that burned, of the day humans stopped being guests. The Khazari leaders watched from far away. They had expected humans to beg or hide. Instead, they saw silence, then fire. Reports came in daily. Human fleets growing, borders closing, old friends refusing contact. The ambassador who had stood in Geneva now sat in a dark room on his homeworld. He replayed the recordings of the glassed embassies. He saw the metal boxes floating in space. For the first time, he felt something close to doubt. His superiors ordered a battle fleet prepared, 200 capital ships, enough to crush any resistance. They would go to Sol and end this nonsense. The ships left their docks with proud banners flying. Crews sang victory songs. Officers spoke of quick correction. But on Earth, the assembly received the news and did not panic. They looked at screens showing the approaching fleet. They saw the numbers. They saw the weapons. Then they gave one order. Prepare the Thanatos array. Hidden stations strung along the inner system woke up. Long tubes turned toward the incoming threat. Solar panels drank power. Gamma-ray lasers charged in silence. Drone swarms moved into position. Relativistic missiles, launched days earlier, already flew on courses too fast to dodge. The humans waited. No speeches, no broadcasts, just quiet voices reading coordinates and confirmations. When the Khazari fleet crossed the dead line, the first missiles struck. Silent flashes lit the black. Ships broke apart before their crews understood what hit them. Then the gamma lasers fired. Beams of invisible death burned through armor like paper. Turrets melted. Engines exploded. The once mighty formation turned into drifting wreckage in less than 4 hours. Only 3 damaged ships escaped. They limped away, carrying recordings no one wanted to watch. Calm human voices narrated each kill like a weather report. Target 1 neutralized. Target 2 neutralized. Moving to next group. No anger. No joy. Just facts. The galaxy received those recordings too. This time, no one laughed. Species that once traded jokes about weak humans now spoke in low voices. They drew new maps. They moved their own ships farther away. They whispered one word that had never been used for humans before. Dangerous. And on Earth, the factories kept building. The training kept going. The deadline kept growing. The law stayed the same. No alien shall stand. And for the first time in centuries, the stars began to understand what happened when humans decided they had been pushed far enough. Humanity did not declare war with parades or speeches. It declared expulsion. The fleets left Earth's shipyards in waves. Ugly, patched-together ships, made from whatever could be welded together fast enough. Cargo hulls now carried railguns that spat metal slugs at speeds that could punch through battleship armor. Passenger liners turned into carriers for swarms of small attack drones. Every ship flew the same simple flag, a black circle with one white line through it, the symbol of the dead line. No fancy names, just numbers. Warden 1, Warden 2. They moved outward in silence, following strict orders. Any alien ship found inside the growing sphere of human space vanished without warning. No hails, no demands to turn back. Just sudden flashes in the dark, then drifting scrap. Traders from neutral species learned quickly. They plotted new routes that stayed far from Sol and its claimed worlds. Some tried to send polite messages asking for passage. Those messages bounced back with one line repeated. Violation means death. The Khazari, still shocked from the loss of their battle fleet, sent scout ships to watch. Those scouts did not return. Human drones found them first. Clean kills, no survivors to carry tales. The deadline grew week by week. It swallowed old trade routes. It pushed alien stations back. Automated beacons floated at the edges, broadcasting the law in every language the galaxy knew. The words stayed the same. Simple, clear, final. On the Human worlds, life changed in quiet ways. Cities rebuilt slowly, but not the same as before. New buildings had thick walls and hidden bunkers. Parks once full of laughter now held tall black obelisks. Each obelisk carried thousands of names etched in stone. No statues of heroes, no dramatic figures reaching for the sky. Just names. People walked past them every day. Children touched the letters with small fingers and asked quiet questions. Parents answered in low voices. These are the ones we lost. We remember so it never happens again. Schools taught new subjects. Xenobiology focused on how to hurt aliens most efficiently. Kids learned which species breathed what gases, which had weak joints, which bled colors that meant pain. Marksmanship classes started at age 10. Teachers stood behind rows of children aiming at targets shaped like Khazari silhouettes. No one complained. No one said it was too harsh. The memory of 7 million dead sat heavy in every classroom. At home, families ate dinner with empty chairs left on purpose. Photos of lost loved ones stayed on walls. No one covered them up. The pain stayed fresh on purpose. It kept everyone sharp. The wardens became something new. They were not just soldiers anymore. They were keepers of the law. Young men and women who had grown up watching the recordings of the slaughter now patrolled the empty space between stars. They lived on ships for months at a time. They watched sensors that never slept. When a contact appeared, an alien probe, a stray freighter, a curious scout, they acted without hesitation. Railguns fired, missiles launched, drones swarmed. After each kill, the warden captain would log it in a plane report. Contact neutralized at 0347 standard. No distress call received. No survivors. Proceeding to next patrol sector. The reports went back to Earth. No medals followed. No celebrations. Just another line in a long list. The wardens knew why they did it. They had seen the videos too. They had lost friends, cousins, parents. The law was not revenge. It was a promise. Never again would an alien foot touch human ground without paying in full. The galaxy felt the change. Species that once traded openly now locked their borders. The Concord Council met in secret. Old members argued in low voices. Some wanted to punish Earth. Others said it was too late. The Khazari sat in silence, their many arms folded tight. They had lost more ships than they admitted. Their crews whispered about human voices on open channels. Calm, bored even, as they counted kills. Traders stopped coming to human worlds. Black markets appeared on distant stations. Human goods, tools, art, medicine became rare and expensive. People paid high prices just to own something made on Earth before the law. Aliens studied the broadcasts of the deadline. They saw the sphere growing. They drew new maps with wide, empty zones around Sol. They called it the exclusion zone. They told their children to stay far away. Stories spread. The soft apes had woken up. They no longer laughed at alien jokes. They no longer invited guests. They simply removed anything that did not belong. Years passed. The deadline reached dozens of light years in every direction. Human ships patrolled its edges like wolves, circling a territory. No one crossed without paying the price. One day a small Khazari diplomatic ship approached under a white flag. It broadcast surrender codes on every frequency. The wardens let it come close, escorted by a single frigate. Inside the ship were 3 Khazari officers. They looked smaller than before. Their armor showed scratches and poor repairs. They carried a message from their leaders. They offered peace. They offered reparations. They offered territory. They begged for talks. The human captain listened without expression. Then he sent one reply back to Earth. The assembly discussed it for less than an hour. The answer came back short. Send no one. We will come to you. The Khazari ship was allowed to leave. As it crossed back over the deadline, every sensor watched. No one fired, but the message stayed clear. Humans were not hiding. They were preparing. The factories on Earth still ran day and night. New designs appeared, ships that could jump farther, weapons that hit harder, drones that thought faster. Children grew up knowing only one truth. The galaxy was large, but humans owned their piece of it completely. Alien governments watched from far away. They saw the human sphere expand slowly, but without stop. They saw trade routes rerouted. They saw their own scouts disappear one by one. Fear replaced laughter. Species that once called humans clever monkeys now spoke the name Earth like a curse. They drew lines on maps they never wanted to cross. They built bigger fleets, but kept them close to home. They whispered about the day the humans might decide the deadline was not big enough. And on Earth, people kept working. They kept training. They kept remembering. The obelisks with names grew taller. New ones rose on colony worlds. The law stayed the same. No alien shall stand. And every day that law held, the galaxy learned a little more about what happened when 7 million deaths turned a species from guests into owners of their own fate. It was steady. It was patient. And it never ended. Decades passed like slow breaths in the cold void. The deadline had grown into a vast, invisible wall around human space, stretching across dozens of light years in every direction. No alien ship crossed it anymore, unless it wanted to become dust. The wardens patrolled without rest, their ships' silent shadows gliding through the dark. Sensors watched every star, every comet, every faint signal. When something appeared that did not belong, the response came fast and final. Railguns spoke once. Missiles launched without warning. Drones finished the job. Reports came back to Earth in plain text. Contact identified, contact eliminated, sector clear. No anger in the words, no pride, just facts. On Earth and the colony worlds, society had reshaped itself around the one law. Children learned to read star charts before they learned fairy tales. They studied alien bodies not for friendship, but for weak spots, where armor bent, where skin burned easiest, where nerves screamed loudest. Schools had shooting ranges next to playgrounds. Teachers watched young hands steady on rifles, small faces serious as they hit moving targets shaped like Khazari limbs. Parents did not stop them. They stood behind and corrected aim. At home, dinner tables always had empty chairs. Photos of the 7 million stayed on walls, never taken down. New generations grew up knowing the faces in those frames. They knew the names on the black obelisks that rose higher every year. The obelisks carried no poems, no heroic words, just lists, endless lists. People walked past them in silence. Some touched the stone, some whispered names. The pain never faded. It stayed sharp, on purpose. It kept everyone awake. The Khazari homeworld felt the change most. Their once mighty fleets stayed docked, rusting under twin suns. Shipyards that built warships now repaired old freighters. Crews that sang battle songs now spoke in low voices about the humans. Officers who had laughed at the small apes now checked border sensors every hour. Trade died. Resources ran low. Planets that depended on Khazari protection looked for new friends, but no one wanted to stand too close. The Concord itself cracked. Meetings became empty. Species sent excuses instead of delegates. Many declared their own exclusion zones around human space, just to stay safe. They called it caution. It was fear. Neutral stations far from Sol became black markets. Human tools, human medicine, human books from before the law sold for high prices. Aliens bought them in secret and hid them away. They studied the old designs, trying to understand how the weak had become strong. Some whispered that humans had always been dangerous, just waiting for a reason. Others said the slaughter had broken something inside the species. Whatever the truth, the galaxy drew back. Maps redrew themselves with wide blank spaces labeled Human Territory, Do Not Enter. Stories spread on alien worlds. Parents told children to behave or the wardens would come. The name Earth turned into a warning. Inside human space, factories never slept. New ships launched every month, sleeker now, faster, deadlier. Engineers tested weapons in empty systems. Antimatter bursts lit the black like small suns. Relativistic projectiles hit asteroids and turned them to vapor. Biolabs grew samples of alien tissue and found new ways to kill without touching human lungs. No one bragged about the progress. They just worked. Scientists who once dreamed of peace now dreamed of perfect defense. The Thanatos array expanded. Long chains of gamma lasers stretched between planets, ready to burn anything that moved too close. Drones evolved. They learned. They hunted in packs. They decided targets without waiting for orders. The wardens trusted them more each year. On the ground, cities rebuilt stronger. Buildings had hidden shelters. Roofs held missile tubes. Streets ended in blast doors. Life looked normal on the surface. People shopped, laughed, loved, but underneath ran a quiet readiness. Everyone knew the law could demand action at any moment. Everyone trained for it. One quiet morning, a single Khazari scout ship appeared at the edge of the deadline. It broadcast on every open channel. White flag codes, surrender signals, no weapons powered. The wardens watched for hours before they acted. A single frigate moved in to escort. The scout followed without argument. Inside were two Khazari officers, thin and tired. Their armor hung loose. Their eyes looked dull. They carried a sealed message from their highest council. They asked for peace. They offered everything, planets, resources, apologies written in blood if needed. They begged to talk. The frigate brought them to Earth orbit. No ceremony waited. They landed on a bare pad under gray skies. Guards in plain armor walked them to a simple room. The Terran assembly sat there. Old men and women, faces lined with years and memory. The speaker was the same woman who had read the law decades ago. Her hair was white now. Her voice stayed soft but firm. She listened as the Khazari spoke. They trembled as they offered terms. When they finished, she stood. The room stayed quiet. She looked at them for a long moment. Then she spoke. "We do not hate you," she said. "We do not fear you. We simply no longer allow your presence among us." The words fell like stones. No anger, no shout, just truth. The Khazari waited for more. Nothing came. They were led back to their ship. No chains, no threats, just escort. The scout lifted off and flew to the deadline. Every warden ship watched as it crossed back into alien space. No shot fired, but the message went out on every frequency, clear and simple. After the slaughter of 7 million, Earth declared one law. That law stands. No alien shall stand. The scout carried the words home. Alien channels repeated them. Species listened in silence. Some felt relief, others felt dread. Because the humans had not attacked. They had simply refused, and refusal from them now carried the weight of death. Back on Earth, the speaker returned to her chair. She looked at the empty seats around the table. She thought of the names on the obelisks. She thought of the children learning to shoot. She thought of the factories still building. No one spoke for a long time. Then someone said, "Back to stations." Everyone stood. They walked out into the halls. Outside, rain fell on the city. People moved through streets with purpose. Ships patrolled above. The deadline held. The law held. And the galaxy, for the first time in centuries, understood that humans had drawn their line in the stars. They would defend it forever. Not with noise. Not with hate. With cold, endless vigilance. Because 7 million ghosts demanded nothing less. Decades turned into generations, and the deadline stood like an unbreakable scar across the stars. Human ships patrolled its edges with the same quiet routine they had followed for so long. Sensors sweeping empty space, drones gliding in silent packs, wardens logging every shift without a word of complaint. The sphere of human territory had grown wider than anyone once dreamed possible. Worlds that had been frontier outposts now held cities of steel and glass, each one built with the same thick walls, hidden bunkers, and missile batteries pointed outward. Children born after the slaughter knew nothing else. They grew up under skies watched by orbital guns. They learned to identify alien ship silhouettes before they learned colors. In classrooms, teachers pointed at maps where the galaxy ended at sharp red lines labeled "Do Not Cross." Beyond those lines lay the rest of everything. Species, stars, stories. But none of it mattered. What mattered was the law. No alien shall stand. And every human alive understood why it had to stay that way. The black obelisks still rose on every world, taller now, covered in more names. New generations added fresh etchings when the last survivors passed. People visited them on quiet days. They touched the stone. They read names aloud, like prayers. No one forgot. Forgetting would mean betrayal, and betrayal meant weakness. Weakness had cost 7 million lives once. It would never cost another. Far beyond the deadline, the galaxy had learned to live with the silence from Sol. Trade routes bent around human space like water around a rock. Species built bigger stations farther out. They spoke of Earth in careful whispers. The Khazari homeworld had changed most. Their cities looked smaller under the twin suns. Their fleets stayed in dry dock, hulls patched, but never launched. Young Khazari grew up hearing stories of the day their ancestors had tried to teach a lesson and instead created something unstoppable. Old officers sat in empty command rooms and stared at recordings they could not delete. Calm human voices counting kills, bright flashes turning proud ships to scrap. The council that once ruled with iron arms now begged neutral parties to carry messages. Every offer came back the same. No answer. Or worse, one short line. "We will come to you when we choose." That sentence haunted them. It promised nothing good. Alien governments drew their own maps with wide buffer zones. They called them safety corridors. They were escape routes. Stories spread on distant worlds. Parents told children that if they misbehaved, the wardens would hear. The name human became a quiet warning, not because humans hunted for sport, but because they never stopped. Once they decided something did not belong, they removed it forever. No anger, just removal. Then, one ordinary day cycle, a lone Khazari scout appeared at the very edge of the deadline. It was old. Hull scarred, engines weak, life support barely holding. It broadcast on every open channel. White flag codes, full surrender, no weapons active, no shields raised. The wardens watched for a full day before they responded. A single frigate detached from patrol and moved in slow. It matched speed. It scanned every system. Then it sent one message. Approach Saul under escort. Any deviation means destruction. The scout followed without question. Inside were 3 Khazari, 2 young, 1 old. The old one had served in the fleet that attacked the colonies long ago. His arms trembled now. His eyes carried no pride, only exhaustion. They carried no weapons, only a small crystal data core, holding every record of the slaughter, every apology their leaders could write, every offer of land, resources, even their own homeworld, if it meant peace. The frigate guided them through human space. They saw the patrols. They saw the drone swarms. They saw the Thanatos array stations glowing with power. They felt small. When they reached Earth orbit, they landed on a wide empty pad under a cloudy sky. No crowds waited. No music played. Just armed wardens in plain gray suits. They walked the 3 Khazari to a simple building. Inside sat the Terran assembly, faces old and young, eyes steady. The speaker was the granddaughter of the woman who first spoke the law. She looked like her, gray hair, calm voice, no smile. The Khazaris spoke first. They read from prepared words. They named the dead. They listed the crimes. They offered everything left in their power. Reparations, territory, even exile of their own leaders. They begged for talks, for mercy, for anything. When they finished, the room stayed quiet. The speaker stood. She looked at each of them for a long moment. Then, she spoke softly, almost kindly, the way one speaks to a child who finally understands. "We do not hate you," she said. "We do not fear you. We simply no longer tolerate your existence in our presence." The words landed heavy. No shout, no curse, just fact. The Khazari waited. No more came. They were led back to their ship. No blindfolds, no restraints, just escort. The scout lifted off. It followed the same path out. Every warden vessel tracked it. Sensors locked, weapons stayed hot, but did not fire. As the scout crossed the deadline, the message went out again. Clear, simple, broadcast to every corner of known space. After the slaughter of 7 million, Earth declared one law. That law stands. No alien shall stand. The scout carried the words home. Alien relays repeated them. Worlds listened. Some felt the weight lift a little. Others felt it settle deeper. The scout vanished into the black. On Earth, the assembly returned to their stations. The speaker sat back in her chair. She looked at the empty places around the table. She thought of the names etched in stone. She thought of the children still learning to shoot. She thought of the factories that never stopped. Outside, rain fell on the city. People moved through streets with quiet purpose. Ships watched from above. The deadline held firm. The law held stronger. No one cheered when the scout left. No one celebrated the refusal. They simply turned back to their work. Because vigilance never ended. Because 7 million ghosts still walked in every human heart. Because the galaxy had finally learned the hardest lesson of all. Push humanity too far, and it stops being kind. It stops being forgiving. It stops being anything but absolute. And once that line was crossed, there was no going back.